Ready?
Hey everybody!
What's up?
We're back with we're not doing a movie review this time. We're doing
you apparently I guess you
I
impregnated
don't wanna
somebody's
talk.
daughter, and that got you on somebody else's shit list. So we're talking about Netflix original series, Lost in Space.
You mean Lost in Space, the series that's based off a movie that's based off another series that's based off a book that's a ripoff of another book?
Yes.
You're like 6th degree ripoff here.
So
So
I guess just overall first impressions. How did you feel about this series? Because I was not a fan. Well, I say that I liked some of the stuff they did, but overall I felt that the like the acting was really, really god awful in a lot of places.
yeah.
I hate harping on child actors because they're kids. It's
Yeah.
not their fault. It's the job of the director to say, okay, let's do that again. Try to take the dick out of your mouth this time, kid, and do it right.
my biggest beef wasn't with him though.
Your beef wasn't with Will?
No.
Because mine was 100, well, I would say about 75% with Will. Because he has horrible line deliveries in this. And I really, honestly, I feel bad for the kid. I truly do. Because this really should have been something that somebody like the director caught and was like, okay, let's try that again and give him some direction.
Well, how do we know that wasn't his best take out of 50?
That's kind of horrifying. I hate
I'm
to say
just
it,
saying.
but know your limits, kid. And who knows? Maybe this is a springboard, and he goes and he does other stuff later, and that's how he gets more acting gigs or some shit.
Yeah.
Which,
Well,
all power to you if you can. And again, I don't know who's at fault here. I have a feeling it's probably the director, because there are parts where he genuinely can emote well.
Yeah.
Like when he has to be sad. I mean, you actually feel kind of sad for him.
yeah.
Or with him. You feel sad with him. Because there are a lot of other people in the series that have horrible dialogue and direction, so I don't squarely blame that on the kid. Like, I think the director has a large share to bear about this.
Well, like, just to give like a little backstory on Lost in Space, it is.
No, fuck that noise. No, nobody needs to know. This thing didn't give a shit about Lost in Space.
Well,
so.
it's based off the old TV show that
Lost in Space.
is Lost in Space. That's based off a book called Space Family Robinson, which
Yes.
is based off Swiss Family Robinson.
Yes.
And I actually do enjoy I've seen like versions of Swiss Family Robinson movies.
I read the book.
and
It's
read
been
the
many,
book.
many years, but I read the book a long time ago.
Actually,
well, that was really what
fairly
intrigued me
enjoyed those stories.
when I started hearing about this and started seeing pictures, and I'm like, oh, okay, so it's going to be them trying to survive in space more. So it's going to be like them being on this deserted island, i.e., the spaceship, trying to get home, which I was really interested in. I was like, oh, okay, that can be really cool.
Well, that was the old TV show what it was based on, like
Right,
they were-
which that's a perfectly fine premise. You're lost. The title of the show is the facet of the
Yeah.
show. You're lost in space, and
I think I'm in the small category of people who didn't mind the movie though, from like the 2000s.
You're in a very small category then, because that movie sucks dick.
I love Gary Oldman.
I love Gary Oldman
He's
too,
just
but
such a
giant
good villain.
spiders.
I mean, yeah, there was that.
Let me
Also,
put this way: when Doug Walker actually does a better job recreating your villain than you do in the movie itself on Nostalgia Critic as a joke, you fucked up somewhere hard.
Yeah, like I was young when I watched that movie. Though.
Oh, so was I. I still remember the first time I saw it. I actually went to the theaters opening night to see this fucker.
Oh.
Me and some friends were really, really excited about this, and we were like, "Oh, right, this movie looks awesome." It's got John Hurt, who I kind of like. It's got a few other people that I don't know about. It's got Matt LeBlanc, who looks promising. It's got Gary Oldman.
You mean Matthew LeBlanc, the guy who played Major West?
Yeah, Matt LeBlanc.
Yeah, you said Scott.
No, I said Matt.
I'm pretty sure you said Scott.
I'm pretty sure you're wrong.
I will see.
We'll see, and you can probably edit it to where it shows that I said Scott or not. You'll probably just take the audio
Dude,
and paste it
the
over.
only thing I like to really remember from that movie is the robot and West's helmet coming out. Like, I liked that.
Well, that's
feature.
part of what I enjoy
But he
about
only
this
used it
series
once.
is a lot of the designs they came up with. I liked the design of the Jupiter 2 in that.
Yeah.
I liked the robot design.
In the movie or in this?
Both, actually. That's about it for the movie that I remember, because everything else is really, really boring and awful.
There was a time travel thing.
That makes no sense. Anyway,
yeah.
Getting off of that craptastic movie, it's...
So, like, being the person who knows it, like, as much as I do about Lost in Space, it was just kind of... I didn't mind the changes to certain characters.
Yes.
Because it made sense.
Well, that being said, that's going to kind of segue away from, like, the main story. So let's hold off on that until we get to the characters. So what about the overall story?
My biggest beef with this, you had a problem with the kid. I could not stand the villain.
Well, again, that's going to transition more into the characters when we get to them. But story-wise,
I thought it was interesting. Like, they did come up with ways and things to, make this work. It's just good ideas, not a good script. Like, not a good... I don't know if it's a script or a director.
I don't know, honestly.
Because we see all the actors...
I have a feeling it's a combination of the two, because I have a huge problem with this in that there is just way, way too much drama, and it feels like a filler almost every single episode, where you could chop about 30 minutes out of almost every single episode, and you would gain and lose nothing. And you could just
definitely some stuff that
you could just have these huge gaps, and it'd be like, that didn't matter at all.
Yeah.
And I honestly think this script could have used a few more runs through the writing department, given a couple more drafts, and kind of streamline the process a little bit.
I know there was something there, because, like, in the earlier episodes, they were setting stuff up that you didn't know was going to be a thing until close to the end.
Right.
Like, there was so much that they set up. It's just... Like I said, I've seen all the actors in it...
The problem is the payoff doesn't hold.
All the actors in it are good to a certain extent, except when they get to something, it feels like they're just not into it, or they weren't directed right. Because we see them in certain episodes be really good, and then in other episodes just be like, fuck off, I don't like your character today.
Yeah. Well, I guess that'll go ahead and lead us into, because I don't want to get too heavy into spoilers, because this is an entire season of a show we're reviewing. It's 10 episodes long. Each episode's like an hour.
Yeah.
So if you want to see it, knock yourself out. Just know that there's going to be a lot of character backtracking. There's going to be a lot of
flashbacks.
There's going to be a lot of flashbacks. There's going to be a lot of doubling down on plot issues that were seemingly resolved the episode or so before.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of rehashing of stuff you thought you had already gotten past, but unfortunately they were like, no, now we got to have more drama with these people.
Yeah.
I don't know why Joel Schumacher had to come in and say that, but he totally did.
I think it's definitely it's easier to get through than some of the Netflix shit.
This is true.
Like,
I found this easier to get through than...
It is by far not the best Netflix, but it is not the worst.
No, I found this easier to get through than... I actually found this easier to get through than Daredevil Season 2.
I found it easier to get through than Jessica Jones Season 2.
Yes. And, yeah, I guess let's go ahead and segue into the characters then. You said you had a huge problem with Dr. Smith, and that is the other half of my problem with this show, because she is written at the same time cartoonishly simplistic and yet highly overcomplicated for her story.
Exactly.
And that is so maddening to try and wrap my head around who thought of this, because she has this horrible, complicated backstory about her being this black sheep of a family, and she drugged her sister and snuck on board the Jupiter Project. I don't know how she got all the way there before she got caught, but whatever.
She dressed up as her sister, and she stole her sister's chip.
Yeah, but I mean, that went all the way into the spaceship when they were already on the move. Nobody picked up on that before then?
She did a pretty convincing job.
You'd figure somebody else would have looked at that and went, "You're not this person." Maybe like a fingerprint scanner or a retinal scanner or something.
That's what the little chip in the wrist.
Maybe some double-blind information protocol. I'm just saying.
Hey,
the future's dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go from that, and then it's her almost having a psychotic break, I would say, if that were just the case. But then she steals the actual Dr. Smith's code and assumes his name.
Yeah, that's the one thing that got me. She's not even like Dr. Smith in like the old stuff was an actual doctor. He was the villain, but he was like,
yes,
it was his fault they kept getting into shit. Like he was just kind of more like a pain in the ass than actual like villain.
Yeah, he was just a mid-level antagonist.
Like he could be helpful in situations, but then at other times he was just a pain in the ass and he would fuck shit up.
Well, that was kind of the thing. Dr. Smith was always very self-interested, and if he could stand to gain, he would try and do that. But he wasn't above having to work with other people for his own survival. So that's kind of where this Dr. Smith takes a huge divergence to where she almost kneecaps herself in a lot of her plans.
Yeah, her plot, like her ideas and like her like set up to try to interfere with people shit. It's like, you need to get off this planet just as much as the rest of them, or you will die.
Yes.
Why are you stopping them from doing it? Like, why the fuck?
Well, she also relies heavily on plot contrivance, because there's a lot of places in this show where things could not have been orchestrated better had they been planned. Like the one chick finding the gun later on in the woods.
Yeah.
And it's like, so you just knew that this person who you were treating as a patient, I can't put enough quotes around treating, so I'm no longer going to try. You knew she would go to this exact spot in the woods, see this very, very thin ribbon you've tied somewhere that's as green as the rest of the foliage, and follow that and find the gun. Which, oh my god, tell me you had a problem with this.
What, the gun?
Yes, because there's a huge glaring issue with this. Not the fact that you can 3D print a gun. That is totally plausible.
So, what he's talking about is, in the first episode, the dad's a military guy.
Yes.
And because,
I have several issues with this.
Because they are going to this new planet, firearms aren't allowed on this new planet.
Zero sense.
Because the dad tries to print a gun off, and the 3D printer stops him. It says, no, you can't do this. The only way a gun gets made is the robot overrides it later on.
Yes.
But it's, the gun is, the whole idea, though, is they were going to this other peaceful planet.
Right.
And that there
Peaceful is fine. But you don't know, presumably there are going to be fauna there, animals.
Yeah.
Presumably, some of them are going to be hostile.
Well, they said
you will need a defensive.
They said weapons could be overridden by weapon creating could be overridden by somebody with a higher authority.
And what if that higher authority is dead?
And you're fucked.
See, there are just way too many gaps in this plan. I get that you want to go to this little hippie commune where everything's peaceful and nice and fun, but you already proved within the first 5 minutes that is an impossible task by the virtue of the people that you took.
Yeah, I think it's kind of dumb also that it's like they expect everybody to survive with a pocket knife.
Yes, and this isn't me being
weapons they have.
This isn't me being super. They're going to take your guns. This is a statement against America. No, this is a dumb idea. You are going into a wilderness scenario. In theory, there's not even a theory about this. If it is a habitable planet, they even discuss this being a Goldilocks planet.
Yeah.
Which is like a 1 in a million chance of seeing just period. The fact that they discovered a second one is a miracle in and of itself.
Yeah.
The fact that they discovered the first one was a shot in the dark.
Yeah.
In order for that ecosystem to survive and be habitable towards us, it has to move along certain evolutionary patterns. Therefore, the wildlife and the plant life will take certain evolutionary steps, similar to how we will need it to survive.
Yes.
Therefore, if you have a planet like this, the one that we're on, you can presume that there's going to be wildlife similar to what we have.
Yes. Don't go off too far on a rant, man. Just for
I'm sorry.
time's
I'm
sake.
sorry. This it boggled me. It was like, no, guns are bad. We're not taking guns. You know how I feel about them. I'm like, shut the fuck up,
And then like
you stupid vapid bitch.
the weapon.
No,
like,
no, no. What really got me though? This is a projectile weapon. It shoots bullets. Where did they get bullets? Where did they get the black powder for it?
It was 3D printed.
You can't 3D print metal.
Not according to Future.
It is a physical impossibility of 3D printers. And this isn't even like the far-flung future where everything's like super spatial, because they describe it being not far from where we are right now. Because you see a lot of this. This is the not-too-distant future, as they say in Mystery Science Theater. It could be next Sunday AD when this Christmas star lands. And we start trying to get off this fucking planet. And we can 3D print bullets in the gun? In a clip? Because that thing has a clip that's removable at the bottom. You can see where it separates.
Yeah.
I'm presuming that's what it's for. But
I would have honestly been. I think it would.
this was...
I don't say this often. It should have been a laser pistol.
Yeah, it should have been some kind of an energy weapon.
Exactly.
But instead, it takes this...
I mean, you have the robot.
This isn't even me sitting here working it out over like an hour. I literally thought of this inside of 3 seconds.
I did too.
From the first time I saw it, I was like, okay, well, that's fine. You've got a gun. What are you going to do for bullets? Because plastic won't make the explosion happen the way a metal casing will.
Well,
there's a reason bullets are made the way they are.
Yeah, I was thinking, I'm like, that's got to be some sort of energy weapon.
That was my first reaction. I was like, if it turns out to be an energy weapon, okay, whatever.
It
it's
even
like a
looked more like a sci-fi energy weapon than a bullet.
And I was totally accepting of this because I was like, okay, Dad's in the military. He probably would have had access to some kind of secret technology or some bullshit. I was like, I'll suspend disbelief for that. But sure enough, I go, bang, 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 and I'm like, you have no idea what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah.
But
it was that.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go off on my Second Amendment rant there. I
just don't understand, like, as far as the show. Like I said, there are so many things I like, and so many like just subtle things that they didn't make a big deal about. Like Judy didn't make a big. She's only one of them's half daughter.
Yeah, well, she's adopted, presumably.
No, she is. Maureen's daughter.
Yeah.
John Robinson adopted her. She's from a previous marriage.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
But no bones about it. She's half black.
She's mixed.
She's mixed somewhere. I don't know from where. I would assume she's half African American, judging by how she appears, how she does her hair.
Yeah.
Just similar to how people do.
Yep.
But again, nothing big is made about that, and I was actually really, really grateful about that, because usually at some point in, like, virtually, I would even say this show would almost have had somebody gone, well, you don't look like the rest of them, and it's like, yeah, it's called adoption. It's not a big fucking deal.
That's exactly what happened.
And yeah, I was really happy about that, especially after that little fiasco with the gun logic, and I'm just like, so you clearly had someone thinking.
Dude,
but
that's also the biggest. The thing about this is that out of all the characters, the smartest one who does the most logical thing is the motherfucker with the lowest IQ. West is by far the most logical character in this show.
I could not stand his ass. Every time he opened his mouth, I was just like, shut up, please, God, you're so annoying.
He may have been annoying, but he thought more logically than all these fucking smart people. He did not trust that fucking woman. He found out she was not who she said he was. Like,
But again, that's more from plot contrivance than anything else.
but man, his character was just. I know to you he was annoying, but he was written better than all these geniuses.
I will say he comparatively was written better because I feel that's mostly because he had fewer scenes than the others. So when he actually does something, it comes across better.
Yeah.
So you don't have to see as many logic gaps that he has to hurdle over as you do everyone else's. So I guess we're going into the characters then. So let's go ahead. Since we've discussed Dawn, let's discuss the kids.
The kids.
Judy, Penny, and Will.
Yeah.
I already made my feelings clear about Will. I thought he could be good at some points. I was indifferent towards Penny. Was the redhead?
Yes.
Okay, I was indifferent towards her. She was okay, not great.
She really.
She played the role of teenager well, which I think was all the direction she was given.
I mean, yeah, like her.
Plus, she looks super familiar. Where? You don't know either.
I'll have to find IMDb.
Put a little thing down at the bottom.
Yeah.
But
I didn't mind, like Penny, like you said, she definitely fit her role well.
yes,
She also, to me, she was kind of more of like, in certain episodes, she was like the rallier. Like when Judy lost her like nerve and shit, Penny was the one who had to like step up and be like, okay, I really need you to get back to who you are so I can go back to being lazy old me.
yeah.
But
Well,
it showed
I
her
kinda
character.
like that.
It showed her character cared about her family
Yes.
and could step up if need be.
Yes, which is a nice departure from the last time we saw this character on screen in the movie, where she was just a 100% insufferable brat.
Yeah, that was the chick from. God, what show was that girl on?
I don't remember.
It was Lacey something.
I don't
her
remember.
name.
You'll put another little note down below. No, the only other person that I actually liked for the most part was Judy.
Judy, I thought had.
She I think had the best overall writing, although there comes one point, and this is spoilers, so if you want to skip ahead, skip to the time code Jared puts down. But it comes to the part where the tanker flips.
Yeah.
And they had just gathered up a whole bunch of fuel that's going to be able to get everybody off the planet back into orbit. So they can rendezvous with the space station that's been damaged and they can't communicate with, but is going to be departing soon because of a black hole that is swinging the planet's orbit closer to the sun. Oh my god, I can't even begin to say the amount of sense that doesn't make. But, they get all the fuel, and unfortunately, like, Cable rips off. They rip off Mad Max Fury Road, where the tanker at the back is detached. And I was sitting there, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember watching Mad Max Fury Road too. Thanks for reminding me I could be watching something way better. And the brakes start seizing up on the caravan they're driving, and so one guy's got to climb out back and hook it back up because they have to cross through this field of geysers. And they get it all hooked back up, but unfortunately they slow down too much and they run over one of the geysers and it flips the tanker and has one guy pinned and he's being crushed. And unfortunately the tanker gets punctured. So now you have the dilemma: if you move the tanker, you lose the fuel, but you potentially save the man. Or you can get somebody out here, suck the fuel out, but probably lose the guy. And they're with the colonist elected head, and he now has to make the decision. He's like, fuck. And he calls for somebody to come suck the fuel out.
Yeah.
Which, this might make me sound like a bastard, is the right move.
I completely agree with you.
And I know that sounds callous, I know that sounds awful, but it's the right move. There, you have either the lives of
I was about to say
the entire colony or one person.
I was about to say I would sacrifice one person's life if it meant everyone else.
And it's an awful decision.
It really is.
This will bring me into my second favorite character of this, because it's ostensibly our other bad guy, which is the colony director.
Yeah.
But he now has to make the decision as to whether or not they save the fuel or they save the guy.
And then Judy completely ignores that.
And she ignores it, and I'm just like, you're a doctor!
No.
I'm sorry, you should understand the greater good.
The shitty thing was, though, the guy died anyway.
Yeah, so everything's for nothing, and it's like, nice job, asshat. Which, up until that point, she had been probably my favorite written character, because she actually went through a decent arc with her nearly freezing and dying in the frozen lake in the beginning.
Basically having the PTSD. And
I really liked that. That showed her having to overcome her fears and whatnot. And I was like, okay, I get that. That's good. It's a good character.
And she was kind of a badass, too.
And she was more than a little bit of a badass. But then it comes to this scene, and I'm just like, no. You can't make this... You can't honestly stand there and say, this is the right decision. We may lose the fuel, but we might save a guy. Everyone else is gonna die here on this planet.
I don't think they knew they were going to die at the time.
No, they didn't know they were going to... No, they had to, because they knew they had to get off, because the Resolute was leaving.
I think that was like a few episodes later.
Was it?
This happened in like episode 5 or 6.
I'm almost positive. Look, either way, there was some reason they knew they had to get off the planet.
Yeah.
They knew they had to leave. Like, this was not going to be a sustainable habitat. Not for a...
It's when they got back, because the son's the one who told the dad, because he found out from
Penny.
Penny.
Yes, you're right.
So
You're
it's
right.
when the dad gets back and they had enough to put it in like one ship,
Yes.
and the ship could take off, but they found out it would have crashed in orbit.
Yes. Which, I don't know how that even works. But,
Because of the gravity from the black hole, some stupid shit like that.
right. But, yeah, long story short, they end up choosing to save one person rather than make sure everybody else can survive. And he dies anyway. And so it's just like, they try to make this big thing as to how she feels bad. I'm like, yes, you should feel bad!
Well, they did that whole plot point just so they could get to the point later where the kid discovers that that the animal poop there could be turned into fuel.
Right. But if that's the case, why did we need all this extra drama and try and hate on this colony director who might be a bit of a hard ass,
He was overall a good character.
but is a good person?
He made logical decisions.
Yes.
He was thinking about the group, not
Yes.
himself. He was honestly probably the best written character in this.
But he's not our main cast, so he's a bad man.
They try to make you feel like he's an asshole, but it's like I
every
can completely relate to.
yeah, no, every choice he makes is trying to make sure everybody survives, and I'm just like, yeah, no, you're the idiots with the ego.
Yeah,
It's your fault we're in this.
That's my biggest problem is like the two characters I can relate to the most aren't like one's like main cast, but he's like the lowest build on the main cast, which
Right.
is West, and then the colony leader. Those are the two characters I can identify with most,
Right.
because all the others just seem super unrealistic.
Yeah, in one way or another.
Like
the Robinsons are
the
the
best-
parents, the parent Robinsons. Let's go ahead and talk about John and Maureen then.
Yeah,
Because these two I couldn't stand on screen hardly at all. Because whenever they're on screen, it's never about them. It's very rarely, I should say, about them trying to survive the scenario. It always focuses on their failing marriage and them trying to get back together. And I'm just like, there's way too much shit you should be dealing with right now. Bitching about how your husband re-upped for a year after what we find out is an alien ship crash landing should not be on your list of priorities.
no, not at all.
Your children are one of your children is in an ice block and the other is in a forest, lost. Just don't bring this up right now. But it's just a constant back and forth between them. And I'm just like, neither of you are likable. When John isn't being militaristic, overblown dad. He's just kind of this wet blanket. Like I got very little out of him, if anything.
The only scenes I enjoyed him is like, because we knew his backstory that he didn't spend a lot of time with his kids.
Yeah.
So he was trying to actually like reconnect, and it's those little moments when he does it that like I thought his character worked. Every other time though, it's like, oh, I'm the big military guy. Fuck what everyone else says. I'm gonna take charge and act like the boss. And it's like, no, I don't care if you have military training, you weren't an elected leader, and you have no leader skills.
I never got that because he very much went out of his way as like, I'm not the boss in this scenario, dude. Don't worry about it. I'm not here to threaten your alpha male status.
Well, he said that, but then he would like try to make calls and like ignore what the dude said.
Yeah,
just because he didn't like.
Well, that was what everybody did in that show. So
yeah.
I mean, the colony leader is basically a doormat for people to come and step on.
Yeah. And as far as Maureen goes, a lot of shit with her just doesn't make sense. Like, if she built this big, like, hot air balloon, basically, to go to space...
Well, she didn't build it. That is actually a device. So, she just put the instruction...
Well, when
she put
she
together
did
by
it,
instructions.
why didn't she just linger in space long enough to try to, like, see the thing and, like, shoot off a flare or something?
Do you have any idea how hard it is to see that shit in space?
Well, I mean, they were doing the big giant light thing.
That is a beam focusing from the planet. That is a huge thing you can do. That is... When you're one person above a planet, no. Unless you know what you're looking for, you're not going to see it.
Well, I was thinking she could have at least like tried to rig something up to I'll learn to talk, I promise. To signal the Resolute, yeah.
Yeah. I was actually okay with her not doing that. I understood what was happening when she did that, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is what's going to happen. She's getting spectral readings from the sun. Excuse me.
Well, it's like, if you had one of those, wouldn't every ship have one? And you could send them up as some sort of beacon?
But they already had the beacon.
Yeah.
She was doing something else.
Well, their beacon didn't last long.
No, it got taken apart by wildlife, which, again, would have been beneficial if they went with some kind of armaments.
Okay, they would have been fine. This is another thing that Dr. Smith did that I just didn't understand. Why did she let the monsters come in and destroy everything? She's to the point where she's a villain.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and get into this because she is definitely the absolute weakest link in this. Which is, I like Parker Posey. I think she's good. Like, I've seen her in other stuff.
Yeah, I have too. She wasn't good in this.
She was not. Which, again, it makes me question whether this was a writing or a directing thing.
It has to be the right... Because she just did stuff that was evil for no
sake of
like
evil.
It gained...
She shut down the fence for no reason because she already knew where the robot was. You can say that she shut it down so she could go out and place the gun for the one chick to find. But again, that's something that relies on plot contrivance.
It was also she wanted to... I think the only reason she shut down the thing is so she would have to force Will to call the robot back, which you don't know if that motherfucker's going to make it there in time, because it is miles away in a cave.
Yes.
We don't know if this thing can fly, if this thing has super speed. We don't know. Yeah. And she's going to go and risk everyone's life for that.
Including her own.
Including her own, just for something that might work. What if that motherfucker had killed you before the robot showed up? Then you just did nothing.
Yeah.
Also, if it had killed you and Will, then the thing would have been ripped to pieces, because the last thing Will did was told it not to be violent.
Yes. And then he has to tell the robot, be violent. Defend yourself, and I'm just sitting there, and the rest of the time the robot's on scene, I'm just like, alright, when are we going to get to the whole you're not a gun thing from the Iron Giant that you're very clearly going to rip off, and it finally happens at the very end. A little more violently than it should have, but it happens. But, yeah, Dr. Smith, like I said earlier, she has this crazy, crazy complicated backstory that makes zero sense
Yeah.
for why it's so convoluted. She stole her sister's identity, and then she got on the Jupiter Project.
Some guy found out.
Somebody found out. She shut him out in an airlock. She got arrested after that, and then an alien attacked, and she stole Dr. Smith's identity, and then she just kind of went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs down there on the planet.
Yeah, she tried to leave Dawn and the other girl, the girl who ended up like trying to shoot at the robot.
Yeah.
She left them for dead, stole his flare gun.
Which, pro tip to a writer out there who's trying to write a villain who is trying to integrate themselves to somebody who they aren't, try and establish more than one person saying that you're credible. I'm just saying, if she had come back with Dawn and he had said, yeah, it's thanks to her that we were able to get out of here. Thank you, Dr. Smith. You're a good person.
Yeah.
Then that would have gone a long way to her betrayal at being something that's actually kind of shocking. It's like, oh, shit.
Dr. Smith definitely was not good at playing the long game.
No, her motivation seemed to switch almost every episode because it would waffle between her being diabolically trying to take over the robot and her just trying to get away from everything. And it would just flip-flop between the two, and it never gelled cohesively.
Like, and then there's the part where, so they figure out, like, the ship that has the fuel in it, if they strip everything out that's not important, they could get it past the atmosphere up to there to send a beacon off, but they are going to need somebody to basically tell them where to go.
Yeah.
And in the middle of all of that,
they decide to have her
Dr. Smith comes in and fucking knocks Marine out while she's fucking telling them where to go.
Yeah.
But then, like, 2 episodes later, we find out that they're not dead, and she saves them.
Right. So that comes into what I was saying earlier about things not paying off well, because you could have cut that entire bit, them exploding, and just had him guess and be like, oh, okay, we did.
Also, when the fuck did the robot get put back together?
When it touched the spacecraft.
I don't remember it doing that.
It showed it super briefly. It was literally like 2 seconds worth of screen footage.
I don't understand this thing's reboots and attachment. Like,
neither did the writers. That's why they were able to just have it do whatever they wanted.
It's like, because it then attached itself to Dr. Smith, but then...
That's because Dr. Smith told it that Will would betray him one day.
But then it later reattached to Will.
Because Will was nice again, and he gave the "You're not a gun" speech from the Iron Giant.
After another robot from its home world that you would think had, like, complete override controls comes in at the very end, conveniently. And
yeah, it just shows up out of nowhere, and it's like, where were you?
It was...
What's going on? Now there's another robot? Yep. Why? And then the robots fight each other, and... I will say this: I was very happy that that was an actual suit that they had on set, the robot. So that was nice to see an actual prop. I will give the show this: it has great design.
Yes,
like the spacesuits, the Jupiters, the robot, all of that looks really, really great. I just wish it was in service to something better than this.
It's not that I didn't like. I didn't hate it. It's
that being said,
I have more.
It was super evident that the robot was controlled by little mechanisms in the forearms.
Yeah.
Because every time it goes to move its arms and it just stops, it's just hanging there like, Will Robinson, my hands don't function like yours. It's constantly doing this.
Yeah, there's so much that could have been done better.
Yeah, that's honestly my
and then like they have the balls to leave it on a cliffhanger.
Well, that's something that we kind of have to discuss. So this gets into spoilers for the final episode. So for those of you who skip to the time code, if you don't want any spoilers, I would recommend not wasting your time.
Mm-mm.
Honestly, watch like the first episode. If you don't like it from there, it doesn't get better.
Dude, we kind of already gave this at the beginning because we've been spoiling it pretty much the whole time. After
We've been spoiling a little.
But yeah, major spoiler for the end. It leaves it on a cliffhanger.
Well, they find the alien ship drive, which apparently is what the Christmas Star was. It was one of the alien ships, the robots, and it crash landed on Earth, and they somehow reverse engineered its engine in, I'm going to say, less than a year, in order to get the Jupiter project up and running. Which I will say this. I do like this concept because this is something that the other Lost in Spaces were sorely missing, was the reason this is called Jupiter 2. And there are multiple Jupiters in this. You see Jupiter 11, Jupiter 5, and it's like, oh, okay, so that's why you have Jupiter 2. It's a little thing like that that goes a long way to world building in this.
Yeah.
But long story short, they find the engine that the robot used, but his ship crashed on the planet. And they take it with them, and apparently it acts as some kind of artificial gravity generator.
Yeah, that and it...
And a warp core, and a Japanese tentacle rape creature. Because it spreads its little tendrils out, and it goes, I'm going to get into your engines.
Well, they used it on the Resolute to power it to...
Right, but how did it not take over the Resolute then? If these things are supposed to do this?
The Resolute was designed to handle it. Their ship was not.
But again, how was it designed to handle it?
I don't know.
Because this thing literally went from the cargo bay to the engine corridor, or the engine compartment. And there were people going in and out of that door where they apparently had this device. So that means there had to be oxygen coming in there. So that means that these little tentacle things could snake out and bind this engine. So why didn't the other engine take over the ship?
I don't know.
But end of the series, they're about to dock with the Resolute again because you didn't have enough drama in it. It couldn't have just been, well, unfortunately we missed the Resolute. We can, and that could have been it. They missed the Resolute. They start talking about rationing out their supplies to try and make it back down to the planet. But then all of a sudden the Resolute shows up. And they're like, don't worry, Jupiter, we'll come to you. Despite the fact that you've done very little to actually help us, you've screwed many people over, and in more than one occasion, you have harmed this cause far worse than Dr. Smith ever actually could have through her own intentions and devices. But don't worry, we're coming to get you. And then a wormhole opens up, and the Jupiter 2 is flung far across space to some kind of binary stars that are being smashed together. Which
where are the robots from basically?
I don't know how that works, but that seems like a law of physics that we're breaking somewhere. I'm just saying. And that's how the show ends. They're like, I don't know where we are. Wait, I do, says Will Smith as he pulls up his Facebook, and I'm just sitting there the entire almost 2 minutes they're building this up. I'm just like, just say it. Just fucking say it. You know you want to. You know you want to go out on the absolute cheesiest line you possibly can because you think your audience is a bunch of fucking morons that will accept any swill that you shovel in front of them. And finally it's just like, danger. And I'm like... oh my god. We didn't even talk about the cave scene. Okay, I need to talk about the cave scene because this pissed me off almost as bad as the gun. And it's entirely from a directorial standpoint. There comes a point where they're getting biofuel for the ships. They found this shit pile cave that can be converted into gas for their ships. And it's like, all right, well, let's go get the stuff. And it's like, okay. Well, it turns out that the creature that made the shit piles is still in the caves, and they're apparently apex predators.
They're dragon bats.
They're blind pterodactyls.
The dragon bats.
Blind pterodactyls.
Yeah.
It sounds as boring as it is. Or it is as boring as it sounds, sorry. But some of them get trapped in the cave, and they're having to be quiet and try and develop a plan without saying anything.
Yeah.
Now, on paper, this should say they silently develop a plan to walk out of the cave. And my immediate seeing of this should be, okay, so using body language and small gestures, this is what they do. And they do this. But then, because they think you're not smart enough to pick up on what body language is or subtlety, they decide, oh, let's just subtitle the fucker. You don't actually need to try and think. Don't bother trying to be better. Just tell everyone what it is. And I'm just like, I know, I as a person, am smart enough to read people. This would not have been hard because they're making gestures as like, I'm like, okay, so they're meaning to walk out. And then she goes, quietly, and she looks over at him, and he's like,
I didn't know that because I actually watched the whole series with subtitles on because I'd watch it at nights and the other person has to...
That part is entirely subtitled.
Okay.
And I almost punched a hole in my TV. I was so angry. Because it reeks to the highest power of absolute lack of respect for your audience. And I was just like, that was the final straw. At that point, I was just like, oh, fuck off. And just absolutely let it go.
Well, you know, if it gets a season 2, all we can hope for is that the cast takes some acting lessons and they get a new director.
We put the chicken behind the camera.
What?
The chicken. We put Daisy behind the camera.
No, it's Debbie.
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 Put Debbie behind the camera.
Don't count your chickens before they hatch. I only have one, sir, and her name's Debbie.
Oh my god, fuck Don West.
His
Fuck this
character
show.
made sense, though. He was a smuggler.
Fuck this show. Does he need to be a smuggler?
I mean...
What point does that serve to his character? He could have just been this lackadaisical asshole.
He's a mechanic. He was a mechanic smuggler.
And why does he need to be a smuggler? Even in his own story arc, where that is going to be a thing, that is negated. Okay, we have to backtrack now, because I've been reminded of something else that infuriated me. And I think this was where I really started to taper off. I think this was where I started to realize, is like, this show's going to suck balls. There comes a point where they discover that Don West is a smuggler. He's been smuggling alcohol across the galaxy. Apparently, they're going to a dry planet. Which honest to Christ, if I had to be around these people and absolutely no alcohol, I'd 3D print a gun and shoot myself.
If you could get the robot to override the printer for you.
No, I just have the robot kill me at that point. Robot, just fucking kill me. I don't care anymore. But
danger, John Aikens, danger.
Yeah, I know. There's danger in me being sober. Fucking kill me. It turns out that he removed these transponders that were going to amplify the signal or whatever for the Jupiters to broadcast to the Resolute and try and make contact with them. He replaced them with alcohol that he's smuggling. It's not even a scene later. She walks outside and she's like, oh, it doesn't matter anyway because the satellite dish from the ship has fallen off on orbit. It's sitting outside. And I'm just like, why did you even have that? You just took up 5 minutes of bitching and then Don West being an asshole for nothing! Blew my mind. I didn't think you could have this much contempt for an audience. Not for an entire series. Michael Bay makes movies that are 2 hours long that have nothing but contempt for their audience. I can understand that. I hold that level of hatred for a lot of things. I understand hating somebody for 2 hours. almost 10, I was dumbstruck. I was like, it literally shut my brain down. It's just like, you really? Like, I just kept thinking, I was like, this is all downhill. That gun's going to have bullets in it. You're not going to explain how that happened, how you made it. The robot's going to go bad, then it's going to go good, and it's going to sacrifice itself in something stupid. And everybody's going to be almost dead, but then at the last minute, something's going to ex machina its way through and absolutely save the day, and it render all the problems that you just had moot. And at the same time, through all this, they're constantly saying, man, if we had just waited a little bit, everything would have worked out fine. Maybe if we hadn't been a bunch of rash fucktards, something would have actually worked out okay if we had sat down and discussed it and planned like a group instead of just blasting our asses into space. Oh well!
Well, if it wasn't for him thinking his dad died, he would have never thrown the fit and figured out it was poop that could be turned into fuel. There's a lot of shit that is just there for convenience.
It's an entire show made on plot convenience. So I guess faithful adaptation of the original show. Fuck me, man.
You know, Dr. Smith wasn't even in the pilot. Neither was the robot.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I was kind of interested in that. Neither was Don. No, Don West was, but he was very briefly. He wasn't referred to as Don West. And it kind of made me think, okay, maybe we got rid of Don West and we kind of merged him with John Robinson, and that's going to be his character.
I
was like, oh, okay.
Somebody told me like the I don't know where I read it, but apparently they were saying like the black chick was going to be like Major West, but I guess that didn't happen.
I guess not.
But like
some neckbeard on the internet probably railed against it. No, women can't play in the military. That boy's the image of Don West. He's iconic.
Nah.
He was played by Joey from Friends.
I mean, look at the Don West you got, though.
Yeah, I know.
I would have much more preferred scientist Professor Robinson and military Don West.
Well, that's what would happen if you were a rational person.
Well, their differences was something in the movie that actually worked. Because he was thinking military-wise, he was looking at things on a scientific point, and they butted heads over it.
Yeah, that's one of the few things that actually kind of worked very briefly in the movie, but then they abandoned it really goddamn fast.
Yeah, so I think that is something that worked in the movie, like something the movie did better than the TV show.
Probably.
There's actually a few things the movie did better than the TV show, but yeah, like it actually let them have guns.
Yeah, they understood that an expeditionary force might need some defense in a frontier filled with potentially hostile creatures.
And that little kid did a better job of acting as Will Robinson than the one on this show.
He actually did, actually. I will give that kid that. He was not bad in that movie. So there you go. Lost in Space, the amazingly forgettable movie from the
early 2000s,
early
late
2000s, late 90s?
Late 90s, early 2000s.
I don't remember. That movie that nobody remembers did several things better than a TV show that had 10 episodes at an hour long, at a movie length to pace itself better. I've hurt my vocal cords. I need something to drink. Jared, sign us out.
Well, guys, now that we've finished our rant, let us know what you thought about it. Did you find it as terribly boring as we did? Or, like I said, overall, I didn't mind it because there were things that worked, but there was just a lot more that didn't.
Yeah, there were.
All right, well, until next time, we will see you guys later.
Laters.